One thing people don't put into consideration when they're getting education policies is, inflation. 4 million shillings today is not going to be 4 million in the next 15 years, in the next 18 years.
Right.
It's interesting the way we are the biggest assets and we're not protecting ourselves this way. We'll protect anything and everything else. Car will get comprehensive, the best. Even my house, I have maybe home insurance.
Yeah.
But then when it comes to ourselves as the biggest assets, in a lifetime, you're going to make a certain level of money, right? What happens if there's an interruption?
In your ability to make money.
In your ability to make money. How will my family move forward? Will they have some level of liquidity to be able to replace my income? Now, that is where life insurance comes in. 2020 was now the COVID year. Yes. Got him, and then I also got it because obviously I could not breathe. But he told me, no, you cannot breathe. It's the COVID. I need you to get admitted immediately. And then they just gave me the news that my husband was dead. Now I'm left with, there's a child out there and I'm pregnant with another one. At that point, I just also wanted to die. I couldn't even, leave the hospital to go and bury him because my situation was also so bad. They didn't know how long I was going to be in the hospital.
So you didn't even bury your own husband?
I could not.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Financially Incorrect. I am your host, Barak, and this is like episode 100 and let me take a guess. 15. Yeah, 115. Solid. I think this is episode 115. Anyway, welcome back to Financially Incorrect. It's a Friday, so we have a money story for you. Today, I'm really looking forward to this. I think it's been something that's been in the works for about a month. And of course, as you guys know, if you've been listening to this podcast, I've said it over and over again, but I'll say it again. This podcast is proudly sponsored by FX Pesa, giving you access to trade in the global markets. If you would like to learn how to trade, please do so via the links in the description box. There are online classes. If you do live in Uganda or Tanzania, you can visit the physical FX Pesa offices and they have physical classes for you. Everyone else, unfortunately, is resigned to access education online. They have demo classes. They have demo. They can allow you to open demo accounts where you can trade without the actually potentially losing any money, so that you can learn how to do it properly to ensure that by the time you go to market, you are able to make the right choices. We've been to Uganda. It's been a couple of weeks now. I'm trying to hint at Collins for us to take another trip somewhere else within Africa to get more money stories. Hopefully we will. Hopefully we'll come down to South Africa. In fact, as we're shooting this, he's currently in South Africa for a money event. Hopefully we can go down there, get some stories. Anyway, on to today's episode. I have none other, and I pray I do not butcher the pronunciation of this name, but I have Mnyindo Tairo, who is, I got it right?
Yes, you got it right.
Okay. Who is a commanding voice in Africa's insurance and financial services landscape, a protection specialist. She's the founder of Le Risque Africa, which is a visionary digital insurance agency redefining how Africans engage with protection, wealth preservation, and legacy planning. She's also obviously a leader and an educator around financial literacy in general. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Barak.
Yeah.
It's awesome being here.
Yeah, what do you think about the studio?
I think it's good. It's okay. Yeah.
It's an office. It's an office on the other side. That's one of the first comments everybody always makes. It's like, oh, so much smaller than I thought or that I envisioned. Just this side? Yeah.
I think I was looking forward to coming and
seeing this side. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, but so far so good.
So far so good.
Yes.
So let's start this conversation where, before we started shooting this, you were telling me you 100% agree with Peter Nduati's philosophy. You're sitting in that seat and he talked about do not buy education policies from your insurer. Yes. What's your reasoning behind it? Yeah.
So let's start with what an education plan is, right? When I'm coming to get an education policies, because I need to make sure that in the case of a death, disability, or critical illness, my children can study no matter what, right? And when it comes to creating a proper education plan, I need to think about, okay, I need this money to grow over the period of time because I'm looking into my children going to, high school or university, whatever school of choice. But at the same time, the one thing I need to put into consideration is life could happen, because right now, let's say, for example, I have a newborn child and I'm looking into saving up for this child until maybe now high school, maybe the age of 14, 15. remember, it's a marathon. Raising a child is a marathon. 15 years is not a short period of time. It's a journey. And anything could happen between year 0 to year 15 or year 0 to year 18, the time that they're going to university. So I need to make sure that there's a protection plan in place. So our proper education plan should have a level of growth and a level of protection. So what education policies do is that they bring both of them in one product. So they say, okay, you're going to put an amount of money every single month. And then in the case of a death, your children are going to be educated. In the case you are to reach the time and you're still alive, your children will be educated. So it gives it's a hybrid product, a 2-in-1. But the biggest issue I usually have with it now personally, because I know it might work for some people, especially the ones who are looking into building some level of discipline, because there's some people who feel that if I do not have a product which forces me to save, I will eat everything. So it might work for those people. But for me, I believe I'm disciplined and I know how to manage my money and I know how to invest. So I would rather invest it by myself. I would rather put this money in an actual investment plan, an investment portfolio, which is going to give me proper returns and proper growth. And I put the protection in a pure life insurance cover. Yeah, not something that is hybrid. That is now how I look at it. So the good thing about getting a pure risk plan is you minimize the cost and maximize the benefit. This other one, the hybrid products, because it's 2 products in one, it doesn't give a very good return and it doesn't give good protection at the same time. So I would rather just separate. Let investment be investment and let protection be protection.
Okay.
So still education planning, very, very important. So it's important for you to know yourself, right? You need to know what type of investor I am, what is the level of discipline I have, and then also go back to your numbers. The one thing people don't put into consideration when they're getting education policies is, inflation, time value of money. So when I'm planning today, and my newborn is obviously the age of 0, right? So 4 million shillings today is not going to be 4 million in the next 15 years, in the next 18 years.
Right.
So when people are usually doing this planning, they're planning with the 4 million. So when the time comes, when it's the 15 years to come, the money is not enough.
Because it's not worth what it was.
Exactly.
Can we break this down practically to see so that we can see what potentially you're actually losing out on? So let's say
Yes.
my aim is to get to 4 million. I'm just picking random figures in my head. And my contribution is, I don't know, 25 or 35,000 shillings a month.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Into this education policy that I have bought. So based on what you're saying, what's the return? First of all, what's the average return for an education policy? If I do live out to that point, to the 15-year mark, how much would I actually get?
Okay, so let's just say there's many different plans in the market. I have seen anywhere between 2% all the way to maybe around 11-12%.
Okay.
Yes. So somewhere in between. So that's why it's good to do numbers for your policy. Not all of them are built the same, and also the terms and conditions are very different.
Okay.
So it's good to now know your numbers when it comes to that point.
And essentially, based on what you're talking about inflation, if the rate of growth is below the rate of inflation, you're losing money.
Exactly.
Okay.
So let me give you an example of a client who worked with a few days ago. So at this point, she is contributing about, in total, 40,000 per month for her 4 kids. So literally every child has a policy plan, an education policy. And now when we looked at the numbers, so what we usually do, we look at it from a protection point of view, like, okay, if you're to drop down dead today, I know it's a conversation most people are not comfortable with, but as I said, it does happen. What exactly will the family be getting immediately, right? Because most of the time when we're planning this, people just think of education. They don't think about food, clothes, and shelter. Because, okay, if this education policy is to pay out within that 15 years, what happens in between? Anyway, so for this particular client, let's talk about one of the policies she had. She's contributing about 10,000 shillings per month per child. That's why I said it's coming to a total of 40,000 for the 4 kids. And that's 120,000 a year. Let's just say out of the 12 years for one child that she's contributing, what she was going to make is about, I think, 1.5 million. And remember, she's contributed 1.44 million, right? So 120,000 for 12 years, that's
Right.
1.44. And she's making about
600,000.
About 1.5. That's 100 and something thousand.
Oh, sorry, yeah, 100, yeah.
Yeah, that's about 100 and something thousand shillings over a span of 15 years. To me, that feels like you've lost quite a bit of money.
Yeah, yeah.
And what was our advice instead is, why don't you just put this money in a trust fund, which is going to grow at a rate of 10 to 12% per annum, and then just get a policy, a pure risk policy on the side. Because let me give an example for myself. One of the first policies I took for now to protect my kids. I have two kids right now. One is turning 6 and another one is turning 5. And it was also to protect their education. So I was paying, because I took it when I was still young. So I was paying about 9,000 something, about 9K for a 15 million shilling policy. You see, now here she's paying 10,000 to get 1.5 million. So it's almost 10 times as expensive. Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
So it's good to explore what is there, because historically, education and endowment policies are what have been put out there. People don't even know much about insurance. As you know, insurance literacy is on our all-time low.
Yes.
So it's important to know what is out there in the market and what is best for me. So I need to understand my need. Just the way when you're doing any investment, I have to know what is my goal and to be able to match that goal with the right tool.
Yes.
Right? Same thing also when it comes to insurance. So a lot of people, especially a lot of investors, usually shy away from insurance because of most of these policies, the endowment or the education policies, because they know that the return does not make sense. But unfortunately, it leaves them exposed, right? So yes, you could be putting money aside, you could be building wealth, because it can take some time to be able to build a significant amount of wealth. And what happens if in between, at some point, you get a critical illness like a cancer? It will take away everything that you've tried to build over those years. So even as an investor, it's important to know, okay, yes, I might not do education policies because the return is not making sense for me, but I still need protection.
Yes.
I still need something that can replace my income when life happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, first of all, I ask my question. So this is basically what you do. This is your job. What you've broken down right now in terms of the whatevers. Okay.
Yes. So what we do is mostly now wealth protection preservation.
Okay.
So remember, when it comes to wealth management, there's different pillars. There's creation, where the investment comes in, like even the forex trading comes in, because you're looking into growing and multiplying money, right? And then there is wealth protection. We have to ask, what could go wrong? Because yes, I am an optimistic person, but I also know that life is full of twists and turns, right? And if I'm planning or I'm looking into living a pretty long life or whatever, has been given to me, I need to know that sometimes life could not happen according to what it is that I've planned. So in case life was to happen, an unfortunate circumstance, do I have enough liquidity to be able to take care of this situation? And also now preservation and distribution. Okay, life has happened. How do I transfer this wealth from one generation to another as smoothly as possible?
Okay.
So we focus on the protection.
On those things. Okay.
Yes.
I mean, I think, first of all, even when you were speaking earlier, I thought the comment you made that was really aesthetic even for me, because really with my kids, yes, I have thought about and putting away money for their education, but I've never thought about their food, shelter, and clothing. It's just never occurred to me. I guess I've always been like, someone will take care of them, but I've never thought about the fact that, actually I could put money away to make sure that their food, shelter, and clothing is also taken care of in addition to their education. So that's one perspective that already is new for me that I want to bring in. Then the other thing I want to ask you is if you can generalize for us and just tell us what are the different kinds of protections that are available for quote unquote the average person, average earner in Kenya, and even like this life policy you're talking about where you were paying 9,000 with a potential payout of 15 million. What are the terms? What are the conditions? What does it look like?
Okay, and I love your comment, because one of the reasons why most people don't even think about insurance and life insurance in general, also from a cultural perspective, we don't like to think about bad things happening. And first of all, in our African culture, we don't talk about money a lot. And talking about life insurance is a combination of talking about death and money at the same time. So a lot of us never think of, okay, life could possibly happen. And if it was to happen, who will be the person who takes care of the kids? So if maybe you have a partner, you can be like, okay, my partner could take care of my kids, but do they have the capacity to be able to do that?
On that, but it's crazy though, because we'll insure our cars comprehensively.
Yes.
Like you'll buy a very expensive car, and you will ensure that it's comprehensively insured, but you will not comprehensively insure yourself.
Please, Barack, tell us.
Really
It doesn't make sense.
As I say this, I am currently not on a life insurance policy.
Look at it this way. Okay, let me ask you, Barack. Who do you think, or what do you think is your greatest asset?
It's myself, obviously.
Right?
It's myself, obviously.
Exactly. But look at it this way. We'll protect anything and everything else. Car will get comprehensive, the best. First of all, we'll go and seek out all the different insurers and see, okay, this one, I know my car is well protected. Even my house, I have maybe home insurance. But then when it comes to ourselves as the biggest assets, because now you come out here to work. The moment you are not there, who's going to provide that income? You have an economic value, right? So if you're out of the picture it doesn't even have to be a death, it could be an incapacitation, even a temporary incapacitation.
That's incredible.
Where is this money going to come from? So it's interesting the way we are the biggest assets and we're not protecting ourselves as the assets who are providing this income to ourselves, to our families, and even to our businesses and communities. Right? And then let me go to the second question that you asked. Okay. When it comes to protection planning, what is there for the average Kenyan? So I'm going to give you the main tools when it comes to overall protection planning, especially now when you're creating a protection structure. So the first thing is, I always say, just have an emergency fund. I like to call it a solution fund. Because again, life could happen. If you do not have a source of income, will you be able to maintain the lifestyle of you, your family, your wife, your kids for maybe the next 6 months or a year until maybe you're able to get back on your feet, right? So it's good to have maybe 6 months to 12 months worth of your monthly expenses and somewhere liquid like a money market fund, so that in case you don't have that income or an emergency came through, you have a place to access that money without having to touch your investments. Right? That's level one. But there's some emergencies that are too big that even an emergency fund cannot take care of. Now we go to, secondly, medical insurance. We hear this term a lot, like we're only one illness away from poverty. Right? And now a lot of us don't think about, okay, I could fall sick, and if I was to get admitted, where is this money going to come from? You see now, being African and being communal, most of the time we think of our people will come through. So we'll start a WhatsApp group, everybody contribute a 2K here, a 5K there. But it's not very sustainable. It will make sense for you to be like, okay, I know that there's a risk of falling sick. I know that there's a risk of getting an accident. I don't know if it will happen. It might happen, it might not. But I just want to know, if it was to happen, I have a fallback plan. I do not have to go liquidate any of my investments. I do not have to go and borrow. I do not have to go and beg. So I need to get a medical insurance to give me access to a hospital. Because we know, especially even here in Kenya, if you do not have a medical insurance or you do not have cash, they will not let you in and admit you. They'll leave you to die in the reception, right? Because again, also hospitals are businesses. So if you have the medical cover, if you to get into an accident or critically sick in the middle of the night, all you just need is your card and you have access to doctors. So that's level 2. Good to have an emergency fund, good to have medical cover. Because another way I think about it is when I'm planning my medical, especially for me and my kids, I would rather set aside 100,000 per year compared to an unforeseen 4 million or an unforeseen 5 million. So it's part of risk management. It's part of planning. I don't use this. I'm pretty healthy, but I just want to know for extreme situations like that, I will be covered. And I don't want to now come and bother my friends and my relatives, because I'm also a believer of let people show up the way they can. Because sometimes, we put so much pressure on our loved ones, but maybe they can't. Maybe they really, really can't, or they can only give to a certain level. But because now you are sick, it's going to bring them also, other than them feeling sad you're sick, there's also the fact that there's no money, and they need to figure out where this money is going to come from.
Yeah.
So that's health insurance. And then now we need to ask ourselves, okay, as we said, we are our biggest assets. Life could happen, and each and every one of us hold an economic value. That means that in a lifetime, you're going to make a certain level of money,
Yes.
right? What happens if there's an interruption?
In your ability to make money.
In your ability to make money. That means you get a disability. You could get a critical illness. And when I say critical illness, are those illnesses which can really, really now make you poor. Yeah?
Yeah.
Like now the cancer, the strokes, the heart attacks, kidney failure. And then also one could pass away. We don't like to think about it, but it does happen. So we ask ourselves, okay, if any of that was to happen to me as a provider, a breadwinner to this house, how will my family move forward? Will they have some level of liquidity to be able to replace my income? Now, that is where life insurance comes in. So life insurance was created as a way of income replacement in the case of a death, disability, or critical illness, in simple terms, right? And there's different types of life cover. So let me give an example. The first one is, say, term life insurance. You know of mortgages, right?
Yes.
So when you take out a mortgage, it's always also advisable to get what we call mortgage insurance. Because
if something happens,
the bank will come for that house of yours, right? And your people will have nowhere to stay.
Yes.
So when you take the mortgage, you also take mortgage insurance, because if you're to get a disability or you get a critical illness or you're to die, you want to make sure that your family will still be able to maintain the house.
Yes.
So a mortgage has a beginning and an end, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm taking a 20-year mortgage or a 25-year mortgage. By the time the 25 years are over and I'm still alive, everything has gone well, I don't need to continue paying the mortgage. So I don't really need protection now moving forward. So term life is really good for anything that has a beginning and an end. Like now, let's say a mortgage or even loans, especially a lot of business people, we take loans and we need to protect that loan in case also of a death or disability. You don't want them to come into the estate or to touch the business.
Yes.
So at least this one, the life insurance gives instant liquidity. It gives cash immediately, usually within 10 working days. Whether it's the business, the family has some money to be able to move forward, right? So that the first example is term life. Then we have what we call whole life. Whole life is a permanent cover, so it lasts for the rest of your life, right? So how a whole life cover works? Let me give an example. Just the way I said I have kids. So my kids are highly dependent on me, especially between the age of 0 to the early 20s, let's say 25.
Right.
If anything happens to me at that point, they're screwed. Because if my income is gone, how are they going to survive or maintain the same level of lifestyle? So what a whole life cover does, as I said, it's a permanent cover. It protects in the short run. It does protection for the short run, because between the age of 0 to 25, what my kids most need is protection. But after the age of 25, if anything happens to me and money comes to them, it's not necessarily protection. It's almost now like an extra level of inheritance. And it's going to for sure pay out, because we're all going to transition at some point. So it's really good for inheritance planning, legacy planning.
Okay.
Yeah. So most people take it for inheritance planning, but it also does give the extra benefits of critical illness and disability. What is interesting, Kenyans prefer this one because of the assured payout.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And what would be the rates? What are the kind of ranges for the rates for the term life?
Yeah.
Not term life. They're full life sort of covers.
Full life. Okay. Yeah. A good example. And the other day we just did a cover for someone who's taking a 10 million shilling protection for a whole life with critical illness and disability. She was paying about 8,000 per month for the next 20 years. Yeah.
Okay.
For the next 20 years. If it was just term life, it's 5,000.
Okay.
For a 10 million shilling cover. You see, the way it's very affordable. If you're to now do the exact same, maybe with an endowment policy, that should be 20-something thousand a month.
All right.
Yeah. So it's good to know the numbers. So you can see, okay, maybe part of this amount, I'll just take it towards a protection, and then the rest I'll just invest it by myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you guys, for your business, your business sake, you procure or help their clients procure these plans as well.
Exactly. We'll get to know your story, where level you're at, your investments, and then we'll be able to give you advice based on where you are and your goals.
Okay.
Yeah. We're telling you, okay, this is the best for you right now. and maybe this is the level of cover it is that you need, but this is where it is we can get started. So just that step-by-step guidance, because as I said, insurance still, I don't know, it's not caught on yet, interestingly, in the country, and the literacy, and also because of lack of trust. People have been played a lot, so there's quite a bit of mistrust in the industry. So what we try to do is educate a lot. We try a lot through our page, especially Risk Africa. So we do this through YouTube, through Instagram, so people can understand, first of all, the need for protection and how it even works.
Yeah. Okay. Who are the big players in that space? Is it the usual people that I would think, the Beta MCIC,
Yeah, all those
guys.
All those guys.
Okay,
yes,
cool. All right. Okay. That was a good but long 23 minutes of just understanding what that sort of side of the business looks like. But I think really, really interesting and very insightful.
Yes.
As we transition now to your story, your financial story.
Yeah.
My off-the-cuff question, which usually is the first question I ask, is you've lived X years of life right now, whatever that number is. What do you think has been your favorite year so far, and why? Of all the years you've lived.
My favorite year, I think it must have been 2019. And the reason why is that is when, like, I was now properly getting comfortable with my spouse, getting married, and that's when also the business was born as well, and my firstborn was born in that year. So it's a year with lots of good memories, and very significant in the different aspects of my life.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. That's a good answer. So even then, like, what's your origin story? Like, if you were to, like, if this is like an Avengers movie, like, what's your origin?
I don't even
what's
know
your
where
origin
to
story?
start. It's so wide. Now, origin story of my business?
Of you. No, of you.
Me.
Not the business. Of you. Yeah, like you.
So maybe we could start from when it is that I started just doing business or trading. My first memory of selling was in primary school. My mom used to travel, and sometimes she brings, say, like these cute rubbers, the ones which some look like strawberries, others look like footballs. And she used to give it to me, and she was like, you know what, you can go and sell and make money with this, because my mom also used to sell things. So I remember going with this bowl of all these rubbers to class. But what was interesting, I will never say that it was me who was selling. So I was like, oh no, I'm selling for one of my aunties. I don't even know where the shame came from of selling. But with now coming and showing people, okay, so this is how it is. You can twist it like this. Yes, you can use it to rub, but you can also play with it. And making that first 10 shillings felt so good. So what I used to do is I make the money and then I just save it. And maybe once maybe every 6 months or once a quarter, my parents would take me, do you remember those KCB Simba accounts? And then I go and deposit. It felt so good. And then after that, now also when I transitioned into university, so I used to study in South Africa. What I used to do is I get now some of those clothes, the deras. I buy them for like about 200, 300 shillings, and then I go sell them in South Africa for 100 rands. So I used to make like...
That's really like 7,000.
100 rands. That was like, at that time was like about 1,000.
Right.
Yeah, now the exchange has gone low, but now at that time it was about 1,000. So I used to make like about 700 bob per dress. And also now I sold jewelry as well. It felt really, really good making money. So I used to do that. And also I used to tutor math.
Okay.
Yeah, because in university I studied financial mathematics and actuary.
Okay.
Yes.
The second actuary we've had here today.
Is it?
Yes. The second actuary we had here today.
Exams, but I studied.
Oh, but you studied it.
Did he tell you how hard those things are?
She said they're really tough. She said they're really, and then a lot of people drop out.
Yeah, most people dropped out. So I just did the degree, but I didn't finish the papers. I was like,
to get the qualification.
Yeah. So I decided to go down a very different route. Instead of now being the person who's doing the math and doing the calculations of the premiums, I preferred now the customer facing.
Okay.
Anyway, so let's just say we're done with university. I come back.
So before even you come back from university,
yes.
Would you say that you grew up, you guys were wealthy, or that you had means?
I'll say we were okay. We were good. We were good. My parents, I would say middle class, not like extremely wealthy, but I was comfortable. Yes.
I mean, I'm referencing that from going to study in South Africa.
Yes.
You know, so technically.
You know, sometimes I even wonder how my dad did it.
Yeah.
Because it was not cheap. But I never once wondered if this money was going to come in. So I think actually I need to have that conversation with him to ask him, okay, did you save this money? Did you take a loan? How did you do it? Because now especially if you're not a member of SADC, the school fees was so much higher. And I was there for some time, but yeah, he was able to take care of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so you'd say you were in average middle class Kenyan, so to speak, and your dad just had, or your parents had ambitions, and they did what they could to try and get you to go down to Cape Town. But it's not like that was
I was in Pretoria.
Sorry. The person who was here earlier was in Cape Town.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So they were doing, essentially they did the best that they could to make it happen. It's not like there was an overflow of cash and stuff in that way.
Yeah, let's just say my parents were very hardworking.
Okay.
And they really, really valued education. That was something that was very, very important to them. And I also loved the way my parents would sit me aside and give me just also encouragement when it comes to life and taking risk in life, especially my father. My father was so big at, telling me that failure does not exist, just do it. And I mean, you learn at the end of the day. And the one thing that I've also carried for a very long time is that embarrassment is a very silly emotion.
Embarrassment is a silly emotion.
It's a silly emotion. Yeah. So it's like looking at yourself through other people's eyes and shaming yourself through other people's eyes. So if you are not embarrassed, then why would you care? Yeah, you cannot shame the shameless. So you do what it is that you gotta do, as long as you believe it's the right thing to do at that moment, but never feel embarrassed for anything it is that you want to move forward with. Yes.
What do you think is the most peculiar thing your parents did with regard to money when you were growing up? And peculiar by your own definition, like whatever in your mind whether it's with hindsight, whether it was at the time it seemed strange, whatever, you're just like, okay, this is,
okay.
Yeah.
So even to look at it like that is, I think, but I think it also happens in a lot of African households. My parents, they really gave a lot to people. And sometimes I feel that they gave a lot at their own expense. So sometimes we went through seasons maybe we didn't have, but they did give to other people. And I always ask myself, but why, right? But then now when you talk to them, yes, I do understand the power and the importance of community, but at what expense, because, and the other thing is you could do all of this and you miss now taking care of yourself. But it was also like a lot of now black tax as well from now their space.
Right.
They've grown up knowing that we need to be able to take care of other people, and sometimes you forget to take care of yourself.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Okay, so back to your story. So now we come back to, you said you've left South Africa, now you're coming back.
Yes.
So what happens next?
So I come back and I thought, I have this amazing degree. I'm going to get a job. Whoa, shock on me. So I kept on applying. I didn't get a job. So what I did, I was just tired of staying at home, took my CV and started walking around Mombasa, because that's where I grew up. Yeah, Mombasa town. Everywhere. Like I'll go to the Rotary clubs, I'll just go to offices to just see if I could be able to get a job. Because now after university, I was still staying in my parents' house, but I'm not getting the pocket money, and there's the things that I still want to be able to afford, and I don't want to ask my parents for it because I felt like they've done so much taking me to university. Now I'm back. I need to figure myself out. So eventually, interestingly, because of putting myself out there, I was able to get 2 opportunities, and I picked one, and I went into the hospitality industry, something that I did not study at all, but I sat down with myself. as someone who's an introvert and an analyst, and especially when it comes to numbers, crunching numbers is my thing, I realized that I have a gap, especially when it comes to communication and selling and customer service. So when I went to this particular hotel and they were looking for people, I asked them they wanted to put me in accounts and finance, but I asked them to please put me in sales and marketing and customer service so that I could learn. I knew that this would have been something that could be helpful in the future. I did not know how, but I just saw that gap and I was like, okay, let me just put myself out there. It was pretty intimidating, extremely uncomfortable. I don't know. Have you ever been in sales, Barack?
I have not. I mean, yes.
Like direct sales, not like sales and marketing or doing this online, going to meet people and selling something.
Okay, not at that like BTL. Is it BTL? Whatever, like that level. Yes. No, that I haven't done. Yeah. But I do have a heart for those people who, for people who do that, because
what in sales?
It's tough.
No, it was tough.
Like when you're sitting in the supermarket, or like when you're standing in the supermarket and you're trying to get people to taste things, and it's hard.
Yeah, that is what it is I ended up doing. But I ended up gaining so much, and I learned how to, talk to people and be able to sell. And then just because of that, I was found by a recruiter, and they were looking for someone to work in a mergers and acquisition firm in Nairobi. Just this helping people out, like someone has come for the holiday with their family and I'm just, being good to them. Then they just asked, so Mnyindo, what did you study? I told them I studied financial math, and they're like, okay, so what are you doing here? This is, what it is that I got, and it's helping me out. This is why I tell people, if you can, just do something. Don't sit in the house. You never know where your next opportunity could come. Anyway, so let's just say within the next 2 months, I was working in Nairobi. So I came to work for a mergers and acquisitions firm, and I was in the insurance restructuring department. So what we did there is we looked at we worked a lot with factories and corporates. So what to look at, okay, what are the risks that they face, and what are the policies, the insurance policies that they have, and what is the gap? A good example is, I remember when we were doing some of this research on one of the companies, it was a factory that was running by oil. But interestingly, in their contract, the insurance contract, oil fire was an exclusion. So it means that if there was an oil fire,
they were not covered.
They're not covered. And this is in the billions. That means they'll lose so much money. This is why I understand that, yes, it might not be the most interesting thing, but it's so, so important to always make sure you understand what is in the fine print. Because now if there was an oil fire, the insurer could be like, I'm not going to pay this because it was an exclusion. So that is what it is that I did. And I also did now this planning for also high net worth individuals when it comes to now protection planning for them and legacy planning. And that's how I realized that a lot of the companies used to sell at a throwaway price were African companies, because there was absolutely no structure, no continuity planning. And now the other thing we used to do is now help the founders create now like succession plans and continuity plans for their personal lives and also their businesses.
Okay. What were your financial earnings at these different jobs? And then that time, what were you making? What were you doing with your money?
So the first one, I was earning about 12,000. 12,000 when I was in the hotel industry. But I made more with commissions. So 12,000 was the bare minimum, the basic. And now with commission, that means if you don't bring business, you don't make money. So I used to put myself out there to be able to bring business. Then it went to about 40,000. And the one thing I can say that I learned, especially with these jobs, both of them, is the most important thing or the most important asset to invest in is in yourself. Because at this time, with that amount of money, after taking out the amount of money paying for my rent, my food, everything, I don't even have money to save.
Right.
I can't even save. Literally, I think at that point, I could say my parents were my emergency fund because I didn't have even any money to put aside to take care of me at that time. But what I did is any money I made, instead of putting it, say, in a money market fund, what I will do is I will put it in learning a new skill.
Okay.
Those are the skills that now help me even now in the business. Yes.
Right.
So at that point, I was just thinking about it actually yesterday. If I was to put, let's say, this 5,000 or the 2,000 per month, I don't think it would have given me the return that I get now with the business that I have. Yeah. Okay. So at that age, I would advise, especially in your early 20s, and maybe don't make that much money, first, just have an emergency fund if you can, and at least bare minimum medical cover. And then the rest now, just put it in yourself. Just invest in yourself, because those skill sets are what are going to now
allow you to
exactly.
Right.
So this is now working on your active income before eventually now putting money into your passive income.
Right.
So I had to work on that, so that now eventually, if I'm going to put money in different investments, like now the stock market, the bonds, at least it will be now from a management perspective, right? Not necessarily now looking at this as my source of making money.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So second job, the one where you're, I guess, assessing and looking at mergers, acquisitions, and assessing insurers and assisting, and help people plan as well. What are they paying you there? What's your earnings there? Yeah.
There, it wasn't even that much. Still like around that 40-50 range.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So
it was big
you end up doing big things, but the money was not.
It wasn't that much. Okay.
It wasn't that much.
So what's the
But
next?
I'm grateful for what I had to learn. I learned so much.
Right.
Yeah. And the connections that I made in that space as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the next significant thing that happens in your financial journey at that point?
Okay. So after that, I resigned. And at that time when I made the decision to resign, I felt that I was not growing in the role that I was in at that point, and I was just not happy with everything that was happening. I didn't feel like they were using me to the best of your abilities, right? So I just decided to leave and now focus on my studies. And at that time also, I was engaged to get married. I was like, okay, it's fine. At that time, we had the conversation with my fiance, and he was like, okay, he will be able to take care of me because the wedding was close.
Right.
Yeah. We went and now did the signing of the papers. So he was going to take care of me. And after that, I started now studying going deeper into the wealth management. But also that time also came with me being a stay-at-home mom and wife. Okay. So we get married, I fall pregnant.
You fall pregnant. That's an interesting way to describe it. What an illness. Anyway.
What do people say?
Just get pregnant.
I get pregnant. Oh, okay, I get pregnant.
Like you fall sick.
I fall sick. Oh, okay, I get pregnant.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm happy, I've started, or I'm getting to start this new family.
Right.
And the very important thing that, especially when it comes to my finances, even when we're in the dating stage, was the moment he said that now he was serious about us now getting married. We started having the financial conversation at that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he was very open with his finances. He was like, okay, this is what it is that I have. I also showed him what it is that I have. We're very, very open, because we're like, okay, if we're going to get into something as serious as a marriage, finances should be one of those things that I should also be open. Yeah. That is also part of now both our value system. Right. And with that, he told me that he was very good at making money, but not necessarily the best at managing it.
Okay.
So I was left as the money manager of the home.
Yeah.
So what used to happen is we'll always have like our money dates once a month, where we sit with our spreadsheets and our visions. And then we're like, okay, this is where it is that we're at. This is the money that has come in. This is how it is we're going to allocate the funds. So from the very, very beginning, we started having this money conversation, and it was fun. Yeah, it was amazing.
From what you can share, because obviously some things remain private.
Yeah.
What was your philosophy? What was your spending philosophy? What was your budgeting philosophy?
Okay, but you remember that time I'm not even earning.
No, I mean, but I'm saying, as a family at this point, as a family, like what's your budget? Where are you putting your money? Because you're the money manager.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So at that time, because we were looking into, now we're about to get married.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, first of all, let's just take care of our liquidity plan. So we're like, okay, let's set up our emergency fund, at least, so that no matter what happens. And then we got our life cover just to tick a box. We didn't really think, we were not in the space of, maybe one of us could die. We're just like, okay, so we need to get medical cover, we need to get life cover, we need to get our emergency fund. So we're just doing the things to...
Well, both of you covered on the life cover, or was it one person?
Both of us.
Okay.
Yeah, both of us were covered because we're like, okay, we're about to start a family.
Right.
And also the one thing I forgot to tell you is the time it is that I was resigning, I decided to get a medical cover for myself, which really came in handy because as I said, I got pregnant and it came through because a lot of people come to us and they're like, I'm pregnant. Can I get medical cover now to cover my pregnancy? It doesn't work.
There's that waiting period. The year waiting period before you can. Yeah. So technically you need to get the cover a year before you get pregnant. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And then now the other thing is we had the conversation on how we had to be very open with our finances. So I knew all my husband's pins, passwords, everything. Yeah. So there was nothing that was hidden. And then for him, by the time I met him, he was already an investor. So he had assets like land, he had money in the stock market, in bonds. I also had my own investments. And at that time, when we were starting out, it was just now mostly to just build like our foundation.
Right.
Yeah. And then now trying to just put a lot of the things in order.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds very, very responsible.
Yeah.
Like very responsible, very forward thinking, very... okay, so you guys tick that box. You do everything you need to do. You now you're a stay-at-home mom, wife.
Yeah.
So at this point in time, you're the money manager. He's making money, but you're the money manager. How long does that last for, and what happens next?
Okay, so life continues as normal, and life is good. He was an amazing husband. And then let's just fast forward this to 2020. So at that time, he was still, at that time he had his own business. He had transitioned from, being employed, and he has started running his own business. He was in the oil and gas industry and extractives. So he was doing pretty well in that space. And then we had one child who was born in 2019, as I told you, my favorite year. And then another one on the way. And remember, 2020 was now the COVID year. Yeah. And in October 2020, he got COVID. Yeah. And it was, at that time, they're like, the young people are not getting it or not affecting, but there was that random strain that came and it was just affecting everybody. Yeah. So it got him, and then I also got it because obviously we were in the house together. And at that time, I remember I felt sick and I could not breathe. Yeah. And I went to my gynecologist because at that time I thought it was because I was heavily pregnant, but he told me, no, you cannot breathe. It's the COVID. I need you to get admitted immediately. So I went and got admitted. And at that time, the insurance company I was on was having a lot of financial issues. So they were not covering the hospital that I went in. Yeah. But the good thing is we had now the emergency fund. So I used it as a way to just give me access at least to the hospital bed. Right. So I got into the hospital, I got admitted, and then, straight into the ventilator because supposedly it was really, really bad. And then the day goes, the night goes, and then now the next day is, still in hospital. And I'm trying to call my husband, then he's not picking up, which is weird because he always picks up my calls. So I try call his friends, I try call my friends.
He's at home.
Yeah, I left him at home.
Right.
I just told him goodbye, I'm going to get admitted. Then he was like, I'm going to come and pick you.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, okay, that's fine because it didn't look like it was that bad.
Right.
And we were doing everything the doctor said. And because remember, I'm those people who can get a bit paranoid. So I always got the doctor to come almost daily to just come and check on us. Anyway, so I call, nobody's speaking. And then eventually my dad picks.
Your father?
My father. Yeah, everybody was not picking up. My friends are not picking his friends.
You called your father?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, right.
I called my father.
Yeah.
And then now he picks and I'm like, okay, how's my husband? It's like, no, he's okay. Let me come to the hospital. I'm like, why are you coming to hospital? And it's like, no, I need to come and see you. Like, okay, that's fine. I didn't think much about it. So I just slept until eventually he came with my mom. And then when they came, they just stepped into into the room, like somewhere just there by the door, not too close because they said I was highly contagious, so they couldn't come too close. And then they just gave me the news that my husband was dead. Yeah, he just died that afternoon from now the breathing complications due to COVID. And yeah, that is when I think my life just changed completely. That day, 28th October 2020, when he passed away. And
as well, I'm really sorry. I mean, it sounds sounds tragic. It is tragic. Sounds tragic. It sounds. I can only imagine you being isolated in a room, not being able to have any contact. So you are literally on your own on the hospital bed, and now you're dealing with
the news
of being that your husband has passed.
Yeah. Now the love of my life was no more. And now I'm left with, there's a child out there and I'm pregnant with another one. So it got so bad. The doctors decided to just get my baby out. At that,
how far along?
32 weeks pregnant.
Okay.
They had to come very early because I could not breathe well. And at that time, they didn't think I was going to make it. Because you remember, I've just been given bad news. My COVID was also really bad and I'm pregnant. Remember that time pregnant women were not making it.
Yeah.
So they had to do a C-section to get the baby out, at least so that he could survive. So my baby came out well and came out pretty big, interestingly, for the number of weeks that he was there. And then now after that, now my situation got worse. I had to be taken into the ICU. Yeah. Which is also now another second phase of an extremely lonely space because, still nobody.
Are you conscious when you're going to ICU? Are you conscious?
At that time I was conscious. I'm telling you, Barack, it was so horrible because you actually see people being wheeled out and they're dead. Yeah, it was horrible. But I was conscious.
What are you thinking? And again, I'm asking this with all due respect.
No, it's okay.
What are you, from the moment you're hearing that news to when you're saying you're getting a C-section, your COVID's getting worse, like what's going through your mind? What's running through your mind at that point?
I was in so much pain and extreme confusion, and I felt exposed because I felt like my husband was my protector and now he was no longer there. I didn't know how I was going to live without him. Yeah. And he was the love of my life. At that point, I just also wanted to die. Because I was like, I don't even know how I'm going to get out of this. Yeah, it was just a state of confusion. But the one thing I remember that now gave me the will to leave was like, I have my kids.
2 kids.
I have 2 kids. I can't leave them without anybody. So I decided to just like box it somewhere, put it somewhere in a corner and just be like, okay, let me just survive. Let me just get out of here. And I will deal with this whole situation after. So the whole time I just kept on reciting Bible verses because I couldn't even, leave the hospital to go and bury him because my situation was also so bad. They didn't know how long I was going to be.
So you didn't even bury your own husband?
I could not. They couldn't leave me. They couldn't let me go because I was under ventilator. Yeah. If they let me go, I'll be gone too.
Yeah. You were on a ventilator at the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was in the ICU for about 2 weeks, then HDU, then ward. So by the time I got out of the ICU, I was like, okay, I think now I will survive. And usually in the ICU, you can't even see the sun because you're in a room. And it's just now all those sounds from the machines and just the doctors coming in and out. You even wonder, I was so scared of sleeping because I was like, what if I don't wake up? Yeah. Anyway, eventually after the 2 weeks, I come out, HDU. So it was, at least I knew I was going to, it looked like there's a light in the end of the tunnel. Then eventually the ward. And now comes the paying of the bill. Yeah.
Sorry, before you even get the bill. So if I understood you correctly, you're not even grieving at this point. Like the grief you've even put aside. Like I had to, you're focusing on trying to live.
Yeah. I couldn't grieve because I was in pain, but I could not grieve. How will the ventilator fight with my tears? Like, I need to pick one struggle. Because now when you're crying, you
like
using oxygen.
Yeah. I don't want to. It's not funny.
It's not funny. But it's now that was what was going through my mind. I was like, Sasa, are you going to cry or are you going to survive? Pick a struggle.
Oh my gosh. It's really not funny.
No, it's not funny, but it was what was happening. I had to pick a struggle. Am I going to survive or am I going to cry? So I had to leave. I had to choose to leave. So
practically, what does that look like? What did that look like on an everyday basis? And I'm asking that because I mean, of course, you've lost people. We've lost people in life. I haven't lost my wife. I thank God for that.
Yeah.
Or like a brother or anyone like super duper close.
Yeah.
But I have lost people close enough where immediately after they've gone, you think about them repeatedly. Yeah. So I'm wondering how are you suppressing the thought of
it's so interesting how powerful the brain can be. Because now at that time still like the thoughts were coming in bits, but I was just like, I just had to tell my thoughts, please just calm down. Right now I don't have the capacity to deal with you. I can't. Like my heart, all I remember is my heart was extremely heavy because, as I said, it's the love of my life, and I could physically feel like my heart.
Feel the heart.
I could feel exactly.
Yeah.
And another thing I tell people is, it's so interesting that I went through the C-section and they could not give me the full anesthesia, but at that time, what was going through my mind was so much more painful than what was going through my body.
So
I was like, okay, yes, I was like, okay, why am I feeling? I know I'm not supposed to feel, but I'm feeling. But at the same time, I'm just like, that I've just lost the love of my life. Like, I really don't even care. So the pain that was in my mind and in my heart, so it was, I don't even know how to describe it. But then now, as I said, after that, I had to pick a struggle. What am I going to deal with? And I knew I could not deal with the emotions.
Yeah.
So I had to just box it and just tell my brain, please, just don't bring this up as much as you can. Because now, when I was in hospital, sometimes when the thought comes, I start Googling, because I had my phone. So how is it when someone dies from COVID? Are they in pain? Because I couldn't imagine, like, I saw this guy yesterday, or I saw him alive. Now he's not there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And in this 2-week period before now you sort of get off of ICU, HD, back to the ward.
Yeah.
How's your boy? How's your baby surviving?
So he was in the NICU for a few days.
Okay.
So he was born 2.7 kilograms. So he was pretty big for a 32-week-old baby. And he was just being taken care of by the nurses and doctors, because they couldn't also bring him to me to breastfeed.
Yes.
Yeah, because I could give him the COVID.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so he was somewhere being taken care of.
That's heavy.
Yeah.
But okay, so now you're about to get out of the hospital. You're now getting the bill. Yeah. What?
So let's just say my bill at that time was 4 million, about over 4 million shillings.
And this is uninsured. Because the insurance,
remember,
because you said the insurance wasn't taking in.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm so grateful that, my community came through. People raised about 2.5 million shillings for me during that period. This is why, in as much as, yes, we talk about Harambee and making sure that, yes, you are protected with insurance, but there's also the power of community, because you never know. Because we had cover, we had a really good cover, but at that time it could not come through for us, because insurance does not cover for pandemics.
Yeah.
So they raised about 2.5 million. And then there's a deal my husband had done with some consultancy firm. They also paid up. They just gave the money. And then the rest of the funds, now what I was able to pay with that was now proceeds from his life cover. Yeah. Because now after he passed away, those now my friends and the lawyers were helping me with the at least the facilitating the claim.
Right.
Yeah. So when the payout came through, I was able to finish paying the bill.
Okay.
Yeah.
did they allow you to leave hospital before you finished paying the bill?
No. I had to I remember I had to stay for like another extra day or two so that now we can be able to complete paying. And also NHIF actually came through, interestingly. So NHIF came through, people came through, NHIF came through, where he worked came through, and the life cover came through. Okay. So eventually the insurer refunded the funds only for giving birth, just for the C-section only, and also paid out funeral cover.
Okay.
Yeah, because
so eventually they did pay what they ought to have paid for the pregnancy.
Yes. Okay. Yes, they did pay for the pregnancy, and the cover we had, my husband and I had some level of funeral cover. So usually they have it as an addition to your cover. This is where now people get confused on, okay, beneficiary, next of kin. When people feeling those things, they don't even know what it is that they're feeling. So next of kin is the person who will be communicated to in case of anything. Beneficiary is the person who receives the money, right? So we had put each other as beneficiaries of our proceeds. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after you then clear that huge bill, and now you're heading home, what's racing through your mind? Does it all come like a flood?
Now it all comes like a flood. Remember, I had been suppressing it.
Yes.
Now I'm home. It's hitting that this guy is never coming back. And
he's already buried at this point in time.
Yes, he is. He was already buried. So I had to get my son, who looks just like him. It was copy paste. Interesting. And then now my drive back home, I just kept on replaying what he told me, that he was going to be the one who drives me out of hospital. And I was so angry. I felt like he did not, fulfill that promise. I know it's not his fault, but somehow I still was in a very angry place.
Yeah.
And then now I get home, my daughter now runs towards me and is looking for her father. Now, to explain that, how do you explain to a child who's less than 2 years what just happened? It was horrible.
So for her, it was you guys left.
Yes.
And now you've come back X weeks later, and her father's not there, and you now have her brother.
Yes. It was pretty confusing. So she just kept on crying every single day, every day. Anyway, so now I am here. I am crying. I'm in pain. I was crying the whole day. I can't even eat. I can't do anything. My windows are shut. I don't get out of bed, or if I go out to bed, I just go to the bathroom to cry, because now I didn't know how to move forward without him. Yeah? And the other thing that was coming through my mind is, I don't even know how I'm going to provide. I don't know how these children were going to, how I was going to take care of them. So the good thing is, yes, there's the life cover, but the life cover can only take you for so long. So we didn't take a big cover, but it was able to give me a runway of just over a year at least. But still, I had that fear of, how am I going to provide? How am I? Because I was used to now being in being employed. And then now, being taken care of by my spouse. And then what do I do next? I have 2 young children. Does it mean that I go back to work? There's all those questions. It was just very, very confusing. And then now there's the aspect of starting the succession. Yeah, because the moment someone passes away and they pass away without a will, without a trust, now you have to go through the Kenyan courts. Which is also not an interesting journey. It has been, yeah. So when I tell people, please just put your house in order, like the worst thing is going through grief and, number one, having no money, or going through grief and now you have to deal with some other levels of stress that you did not anticipate. Now having to deal with lawyers, having to deal with the courts, because whoever thinks that they're going to die in their 30s. Yeah.
What was that? Getting the succession going? First of all, is it concluded? Because it takes, like forever to.
No, as of today, not yet.
To finish those things.
Not yet.
But this is 5 years later, right?
Imagine.
But even just getting the process kicked off, what was it like? Have you had contentious things to deal with? Have people come out of the woodwork, or is it just the slow judicial system that's stopped the process.
So let's even start with the fact of that I did not know when someone passes away, you have to go to your chief. Yeah. Do you know your chief?
I do not. I
had to find my chief.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know. So for you to even kickstart the succession process, you have to go to the chief so that now they can write a letter. Oh yes, these people were married. They were in my village, and yeah, you can start. And they had these children, and he died of this, so that now he can kickstart the process. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then this whole time, it was, as I said, it was very confusing because there's now, as I said, dealing with the emotions and then now dealing with these facts that you still have to take care of.
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't matter whether you're feeling pain or not, you still have to take care of it. And then after that, now that's when we started the succession process. And it has been a journey and a half. Because you see, in as much as it's your husband and wife, but if some things were not put in writing, you still have to go through the courts anyway, right? Let me give you an example of something that now really broke my heart. And I realized that now, even if you have all the money in the world, but no access, it does not help. So now remember, my husband has passed away and I wanted access to money in his bank because I knew he had money. Yeah, because I do the money, the finance.
You're the one who did the management, so you know that there's money.
I think the money management, yeah. So I took our marriage certificate, I took the death certificate, and I went to the bank. And I said, I know my husband has an account here, and this is the account number. I'd want some access to the money. And the bank was like, no, we're not going to give you anything.
Without a court.
Yeah. So please go finish the succession process. When you're done, now you can come and restart this and we can give you access to the money because at this point we don't know. Yes, we understand. Yes, you're the wife. We can see the marriage certificate, but it's not automatic that the money will go to you until this whole process is over, till the letters of administrations are out. So I remember breaking down at the bank because there's this, I need to take care of these 2 young children and I can't access the money. So in as much as my husband had all this money, there's the land, there's the stock market, there's the bonds, but I had no access.
To this day, you still haven't had access to?
No, now everything has just been now me taking care of my kids.
So even now, I don't know, it sound like, so even now, you know that there's money in X account.
Yes.
I know that he had X investment. I know I had X, but I cannot touch it.
Yeah, I have no access.
So you are starting from zero.
I had to start from zero at that time now after. Because when I saw that I didn't think it was going to take as long as it did. Because you see now you go to the courts and then one day the judge just does not show up. Oh no, the judge is not feeling well. Then you're given a date 6 months later. Mm-hmm. And then now you come in, then you're told, oh, it's a holiday, so we need to give you guys new dates. Then it keeps on now pushing forward.
And then the magistrate is sent elsewhere. And you start with a new one.
You start.
Right.
It was almost like a Niger movie. It's not interesting. I did not know that this is what people go through.
Right.
Because you see, most of the time when someone passes away, we just oh, Pole, sorry for what you're going through. Maybe we give some money. But now what happens after? Nobody ever asks. What happens next? Yeah. How do these people survive? Okay, how does the succession even go?
Yeah.
So it's taken a very long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Grim. Really sad. Really grim. Really bleak.
Yeah.
So how do you then end up rebuilding? 5 years later to where you are now with the company, with doing a lot. I've seen you at different spaces talking. You're talking about having clients and all of that. So things must be working to some extent. So how do you end up rebuilding yourself?
Okay. I left the story where now I've come back home. I'm just breaking down. And then I just remember one of my friends calling me. And she just told me, okay, Marianne, we understand that you've gone through a very tough season, but you have kids to take care of. So you need to figure out how you're going to pick yourself up and put your things in order. It was one of those tough love because she was the only friend who was able to tell me that. And now at that point, I was okay, now I need to start thinking of what can I do. So I had to ask myself, so what do I currently have in my hands? Remember in 2019, my husband helped me set up my business. So at that time, in as much as I was a stay-at-home mom, he told me when I met you, I knew that you were passionate about, helping families, protecting families. So I'm going to support you here. So we're going to, we can, help you set up this business. He got me my first laptop, my phone. And he told me, even if you just get one client a month, as long as there's something it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
So at least the business was already registered. I just started slowly, but it was not, I was being taken care of. So it was almost like a hobby at that time. And then now I have the money from the life insurance. So I first of all made sure that, I have money for rent and food, just at least so that I don't have to think about
meeting those needs.
Because now that means it will bring me right into survival mode. So what I did is I moved to a new town. I went to Kilifi County, just packed everything and just left. And I was like, I need to start afresh. I don't know how, but God has to come through somehow, because it's tough. And every single day I was now sitting down with myself, doing a lot of prayer, a lot of meditation, but also thinking, okay, this is where I'm at. What do I believe I need to do next? Because I wanted a business where I could have enough time with my kids, because my kids are still young. Yeah. Because the time it is that I moved to the coast, my son was 6 months and my daughter was almost turning 2. Yeah? So I was like, okay, what is the thing that I could do and to ensure that I spend time with them and can still be able to make me money? Yeah. And something that I'm also passionate about.
Right.
That's now when I said, okay, now I will have to run this agency virtually. Because most of the time when it comes to insurance, you have to go and meet someone face to face. Especially when it comes to insurance, there's, as I said, lack of trust. But as I told myself, this has to work. I only have plan A and plan A. I cannot go back to work, because which employer will understand that I am having a breakdown and I need 5 days to take a break?
Yeah, because you can't function.
Because I can't function, because I was going through that. Sometimes I have the energy to work, sometimes I just don't. Yeah. So which employer will understand and give me maybe even sometimes a month off? So I was like, okay, I have to run a business and it has to work. So I didn't have any digital skills at that point. The most I had was just an Instagram page. And that's it in the business. So I started now doing YouTube University, figuring out, so how do you run an Instagram page? How can you start having conversations in these pages so that eventually you can be able to, grow an audience, people who understand what it is that you're offering and eventually buy. And also now it was also coming from now my own personal story. I saw that this thing actually came through. But the time that we were making the claim, I didn't know if they were going to pay, because you hear a lot of these stories that insurance companies don't pay.
When the time comes.
But for mine, they paid, and it was a pretty smooth experience. And I was like, okay, so many families are going through this and they don't have a plan. Because because of now going through this journey, I met enough widow friends whose husbands had no plans and their children were suffering. Yeah, they were in that survival mode. Because if for me, my husband didn't have a plan, I might have had to move back into my parents' house. Yeah, but now I had the choice to move to a whole different town and just rebuild.
Because of the plan.
Yeah, because of the plan. So it was just mostly hanging out and spending time with nature, spending time in prayers, and any idea that comes in my mind, I just put it down. And then also now saying, okay, these are the skills that I need. If I saw a coach or someone who was offering, I will now invest in those courses so that now I could be able to pour into the business. That's now how I started. And I remember because there's one client or there's one person who kept on bothering me on social media. She was like, okay, Mnyindo, I saw what happened. I'm so sorry, but I need you to set me up. So she kept on asking me over and over and over again. So that was now my first client in 2021 because she disturbed me so much. She was like, okay, I understand. I'm sorry to interrupt.
But can you?
Yeah, but can you please? So I just gathered the courage and just told myself, let me just help her. Then it just got the ball rolling. Then I think towards the end of the year, that's now when I started showing my face on social media and start having these conversations. So a lot of now my education comes from storytelling, because most of the time the insurance just feels very cold, just numbers, but you don't know how it's actually the people who are behind it and the people who the insurance has actually come through for. It's are real people. Because when we look at it, most of the time we're like, okay, the chances are so low. Maybe only 2 in 100 people die. So we just look at it from a statistical point of view. But do you know how those 2 are actually affected?
Yeah. Their life changes.
Their life completely changed. And remember, for me, it was COVID, right? So even I'm so grateful for, say, my husband's friends, my friends, but who will provide 150,000 per month?
Just to give you, just to be like...
to give me and my kids. They're also going through their own situation because it was COVID, people are losing their jobs. So if I was to say, oh, because they're not helping me, they're not the best friends, or they left me at my time of need, but they came through, maybe coming to pray with me, giving me food. They came through the way they could. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And since then, I guess this is what you have lived on, because like we've said, you still don't have access to your late husband's estates, unfortunately. So you had to rebuild, and you've rebuilt, and now you are sustainable and taking care of your kids through your business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's because it was just now a combination of the courage and the business already being in existence, and at least the seed capital from the life insurance proceeds to be able now to run this business and give it the seriousness that it required. And it was just slowly but surely. The first year, maybe I only had like 7 clients, and then they just continued growing. Because I realized when you break it down in a way that people can understand, and when you share stories, and sometimes people can actually see themselves in these stories, because at the end of the day, I was a wife, now I'm no longer a wife. He was a husband, now he's no longer there. But I'm sure that wherever it is, I hope he's proud that I'm able to take care of our children and still maintain, the lifestyle that, we are used to. Maybe not to the level, but still good enough. Yeah.
When does it hit you, and when do you realize that actually not only can I do this, I am doing this, and I have... Like, when does it hit you that, 5 years ago, I was in a hospital bed, truly or utterly depressed, wondering whether I was going to be able to do this.
Yes.
And now it's 5 years later, my kids are turning... when I walked in, when you're talking to Ray, I had you say my kids are turning 6 and 5.
Yes.
And, like, you've done it.
Yes, I've done it. So when it feels so surreal when people call you and ask you to now share these stories, or when you pay the claims for some of these families. When you sit down with people with real stories and you see how it is just based on this business that started so small and has grown to the level it has and coming through, it is just mind-blowing. And also, within such a short period of time, we were able to be top 20 even life insurance agents in the country, or even now getting the what we call $1 million round table, MDRT status, which is such a big deal in the industry.
What does that mean for a layman like me?
Okay, so that means you are top 3% life insurance best providers in the world. Yeah.
What does it mean, monetary terms? Like
monetary terms.
Because you said the 1 million round table.
Yeah, $1 million. That means that you have been able to do figures of, because it changes every year. That means that there's a certain level of collection, maybe from around 10 million, like actual money, 20, depending on the year that you've actually collected.
That amount of money.
Yeah, that amount of money.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So when I remember now when I got the $1 million round table, now achievement for the first time, because it used to be on my vision board for such a long time. And then now when I went on stage and I was given the trophy and the recognition, I was like, this is so surreal. Yeah. It's I can't even believe we're here in such a short period of time.
Okay.
Yeah, just because of putting my heart into it. Yeah.
When do you move back, or do you still live in Kilifi?
I'm still that side.
So you just come in and out.
Yeah, I'm just in and out because a lot of my clients are here.
Oh yes, I heard that. But I knew that.
Yeah.
I had just forgotten, but I knew that because when we were putting Love and Money together, there was the hope of wanting to have you there. And then someone said, oh, she wouldn't be able to do it because she would be in Kilifi at the time or something like that. Anyway, so I knew that. Yeah.
So this is why I had to start the virtual agency, the digital agency, so that now I can literally serve people from anywhere. And I had to build a brand strong enough that people would be able to trust me even without having to see me.
Yeah.
And I still am that side, but a lot of our clients are here. So there's some meetings I have to do, especially physical meetings when it comes to now family planning and legacy planning, especially for the older clientele, like 50 and above. I have to be there.
Okay.
Yeah, they're still not very comfortable with this online virtual thing. So the younger ones, like in their 30s, 40s, are still okay. But now 50s, 60s, I have to come. Yeah, so I usually come like about once a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what does financial success look like for you now?
So financial success.
And has it changed since the unfortunate passing of your husband?
Oh, it's changed. I remember being in hospital and realizing that nothing mattered. Like a lot of things didn't matter. The actual material things did not matter because we had so much, but it couldn't save him. And I could literally change and exchange everything to have him back. Yeah. So right now, financial success to me means having the time to spend with my kids, as much time as I can, because all I hold on to right now is our memories together. So even for me, being able to create those beautiful memories with my kids is so important. And being at a place where I enjoy and I'm creating impact. So to me, that is success. And being able to see that, we're changing people's lives and families' lives, just one person at a time or one family at a time. Yeah. So things really, really changed at that point in 2020. Like there was the before, you enjoy going for your travels and buying all these things. Now, me and things, I'm like, it could be here one day, it could not. But now the relationships it is that you create are so important. The social value and social economy is very important.
That's where it's at.
That's where it's at for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
What a story, honestly. Yeah. What a story. Thank you so much for coming to talk about it and sharing this on Financially Incorrect, just imparting the knowledge that you did at the beginning and just through this whole episode. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah.
I am impressed. Yeah. I mean, I think, no words. For you guys who watched this episode, I hope you have enjoyed this. We'll see you guys next week on the next episode of Financially Incorrect.
Yeah.